The parent-teacher conference was ending. Mrs. Gable, a woman with kind eyes and floral scarf, was praising our 7-year-old Zoe's progress in reading. Then she smiled at my wife. "And Amelia, I'm so glad your doctor's appointments are going well. You looked a bit tired last week." My wife's smile didn't falter. She just squeezed my hand. "Yes, much better now, thank you. Tuesdays and Thursdays can be draining." I smiled too, a perfect portrait of a supportive husband. Pottery class was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even angry. That hot, explosive feeling had burned out weeks ago, leaving behind something cold and quiet. You see, Mrs. Gable wasn't telling me anything I didn't already know. I knew Amelia wasn't at a pottery studio, and I knew she wasn't at a doctor's office. I knew because the GPS tracker I'd put in her car 2 weeks ago showed her parked at the same downtown community center every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. This wasn't a discovery. This was just data collection. Back home, at 7:15 p.m., the house smelled of the lemon-scented bleach she used to scrub the floors and her lavender perfume. It was a sterile, floral combination that always preceded one of her outings. She moved through the kitchen with practiced grace, cutting the crusts off a sandwich for Lily, her movements economical and precise. She was playing the part of the devoted mother, the flawless homemaker, and I was her adoring audience. The lighting was perfect. The scene was perfect. It was all a complete lie. I'll admit, I hadn't been a perfect husband. My focus had been singular. Provide. Build the fortress. Secure the perimeter. I worked 60, sometimes 70-hour weeks at the firm so she could have this kitchen, this life, so Lily could go to the best schools. I equated financial stability with emotional presence. It was a fatal miscalculation. My first wife, Sarah, had told me I didn't build a home. I built a beautiful, empty museum. I thought she was being dramatic. Now, I saw the truth in it. Our phone was on the granite countertop, plugged into the silver charger I'd bought her for our 9th anniversary. I remembered her unwrapping it, her genuine smile. A small, perfect gift. Now the cable was frayed near the connector. The white plastic sheet split open, revealing the colored wires within. It looked tired, worn out from overuse, a relic from a time when I still believed our connection was stable. "How was your day, honey?" I asked, my voice even. She didn't look up from her phone, just grunted a single syllable. "Fine." The space between us was a chasm, and she was on the other side, texting, smiling at a screen that wasn't me. She was a million miles away, and I was sitting right next to her. The silence in our kitchen was louder than any argument. Later, when the house was quiet, I sat in my home office and opened the tracking app on my laptop. A stupid, desperate hope flickered inside me. Maybe there was a new medical building next to the community center. Maybe she was seeing a specialist and was too scared to tell me. Maybe I was the monster for even suspecting her. I zoomed in on the satellite map, my heart pounding a slow, heavy rhythm. The pin dropped precisely on the roof of the Northwood Community Center. No clinics, no doctor's offices, just a bland, brick municipal building that hosted yoga classes, AA meetings, and local theater groups. The location history was a neat, damning list of her deception. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, 2 hours exactly. The hope died instantly, replaced by the cold, clear certainty I had been nursing all along. The confirmation didn't bring pain. It brought focus. This was no longer a marriage in crisis. It was a strategic problem with a set of variables. Amelia was a variable. Her lies were data points. My job was to collect enough data to understand the full scope of the equation before I solved it. Emotion was a liability. I closed the GPS app and moved to the next phase. The invitations were already on the hall table, a neat stack of cream-colored cardstock waiting to be mailed. Our 10th anniversary party. In 3 weeks, here, at the house. We had invited everyone, her parents, my partners from the firm, all the couples we pretended to like from the neighborhood. It was meant to be a celebration of our perfect life. Now it would be the stage, a deadline, and a venue, all in one. I remembered something she'd said months ago, complaining about storage. The family iCloud account. Everything synced. Her phone, my phone, Willie's old iPad that she used for games. At 2 a.m., I crept into Lily's room and retrieved the device. In the blue light of my office, I logged in, and there it was, her entire iMessage history. The ones she so carefully deleted from her phone were archived perfectly in the cloud. It was a digital ghost limb, still twitching with life. The messages were with someone named David. They were filled with coded language, talk of escape plans, of finding the strength to leave the fortress, of getting her documents in order. It looked exactly like an affair, a plan to run away with a new man. It was sordid and predictable, and for a moment I felt the simple, clean anger of a man betrayed. But that was only half the truth. My office was freezing, the air conditioning humming its low mechanical drone. Down the hall, our bedroom was warm and silent, except for the soft whoosh of the white noise machine she couldn't sleep without. I was an island of cold logic in a house of sleeping ignorance. The contrast was stark. The silent operator in the control room of my own collapsing life. I leaned back in my chair and the faint scent of lavender rose from the collar of my shirt, transferred from her hug earlier in the evening. That scent used to mean home. It used to mean comfort, intimacy. I had bought her that perfume in Paris on our honeymoon. Now it was the scent of her other life. It smelled like a stranger in my house. It smelled like betrayal. The next morning, she was a whirlwind of affection. She made me coffee just the way I like it, packed me a lunch, and kissed me at the door like a 1950s housewife. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was perfect. It was a masterful performance. I played my part, the grateful, oblivious husband. I kissed her back, my lips touching her cold cheek, and promised to be home early. I spent my lunch break in my car, scrolling deeper into the chat logs. David wasn't her lover. The tone wasn't romantic. It was instructional. He was a facilitator, a coach. He ran a support group for women in controlling relationships. They called me the warden. They called our home the fortress. The escape plan wasn't for a tryst. It was for a new life without me. The warden? Me? I gave her a life of complete freedom. She didn't have to work. Her only responsibilities were to our daughter and our home, a home I had paid for with my life's blood. This wasn't a prison. It was a paradise. This David character had poisoned her mind, twisted my provision into a narrative of oppression. She wasn't a victim. She was a revolutionary staging a coup in my kingdom. I found a deleted entry in her cloud calendar, an appointment from 6 months ago. Consultation, J. Peters. A quick search confirmed my suspicion. J. Peters and Associates was a family law firm, a shark, judging by the reviews. She had been meeting with a divorce attorney before the secret meetings, before the pottery class lie. The foundation of this betrayal was deeper and older than I could have imagined. A part of me, a small, foolish part, still tried to find an innocent explanation. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she'd met with the lawyer out of anger after a fight and never went back. People do drastic things when they're upset. Maybe the anniversary party could be a turning point, a grand gesture to remind her of what we had, what she would be throwing away, a chance to fix it. That evening, I decided to test the waters. I found her in the living room, scrolling through her phone. I sat across from her. Amelia, we need to talk. My voice was calm, gentle. She looked up, her expression a careful blank slate. Her phone went face down on the polished wood of the coffee table with a soft click. About what, Mark? I didn't show my cards. I just said, I feel like you've been distant lately. Is everything okay? The tears came instantly, as if on cue. Of course I'm distant, Mark. When are you ever here? You're always working. You come home and you're still on your laptop. You provide for this family, but you aren't a part of it. She masterfully turned my concern into an accusation against me. She was the victim. I was the villain. For a breathtaking second, I almost believed her. The guilt was a physical weight. Her performance was flawless. I was about to apologize, to promise to change, when I saw it. Her smartwatch, on the wrist of the hand she was using to wipe away her fake tears, lit up. A notification preview, on screen for less than a second. From David. It read, Stick to the plan. You're doing great. And then it was gone. I stood up without a word. I walked back to the kitchen, the scene of our morning charade. The silver phone charger was still there, a snake on the counter. I unplugged it from the wall and coiled the frayed cord tightly in my hand. The worn plastic, a familiar, disappointing texture. It barely holds a charge anymore, she had said. I finally understood. The web of lies was expanding. The following Friday, she told me she was having lunch with her sister, Claire. An hour into her lunch, I called Claire's cell. Just wanted to say hi, see how you two were doing. Claire was bright and cheerful. Oh, I haven't talked to Ames today. I thought she had that pottery class she's so excited about. 2 separate alibis for 2 separate audiences. It was impressive, really. The sheer logistics of it. 10 minutes later, Claire called back, her voice low and conspiratorial. Mark, is something wrong? Amelia's been acting strange for months, distant. He's worried about her, I confided, letting just enough manufactured concern into my voice. He's pushing her away. Claire sighed. I'll talk to her, she promised. I'll see what's going on. I thanked her, my heart like a stone. An ally, or so I thought, my own sister-in-law. A false ally. It was a classic move, creating a triangulated source of information. Amelia would get advance warning of my moods, my questions. Claire would report back, feeling like she was helping her fragile sister, all while tightening the net around me. I felt a surge of cold admiration for the thoroughness of their strategy. That night, I went through our joint credit card statements online. It was a tedious, line-by-line search for anomalies. I found them. Small recurring charges, $10 here, $20 there, Venmo payments to names I didn't recognize. Hundreds of dollars over the last 6 months, disguised as coffee runs and pharmacy pickups. She wasn't just planning an escape. She was funding it with my money. The next day, Amelia approached me, her face a mask of concern. Claire called me, she said, her voice soft. She said you were worried about me, about us. Mark, if something is bothering you, you have to talk to me. She placed her hand on my arm. The performance was flawless. She was using the information Claire gave her to feign innocence, to appear open and loving. My paranoia had a name, and it was Claire. I focused on my own data collection. Small things. The way she now angled her phone away from me. The sudden password she'd put on her laptop. An empty box for a new prepaid cell phone I found at the bottom of the recycling bin, hidden under piles of junk mail. Each discovery was another brick in the wall she was building between us. I thought of our trip to Paris. The honeymoon. We were young, and I felt like I could conquer the world with her by my side. She bought that lavender perfume at a small shop in Le Marais. She said it would be our scent. Now, its fragrance felt like a violation, a beautiful memory systematically corrupted and overwritten with new, tainted data. Sarah never wore perfume. She said she preferred to smell like herself. Back on Lily's iPad, I found a new thread in the deleted messages. They were getting bolder. David was giving her a checklist. Secure personal documents. Open new bank account. Finalize temporary housing. The date they kept mentioning was a Saturday. The day after our anniversary party. Her D-Day. My party was to be her final act of misdirection. One last show for the warden before the prison break. Then, a moment of cognitive dissonance. Tucked into my briefcase was a handwritten note on her personal stationery. I know you're stressed about this party. Just remember why we're doing it. For 10 years of us, I love you. For a single stupid heartbeat, a flicker of hope ignited. Maybe this was all a massive misunderstanding. Maybe she was pulling back from the brink. But the feeling soured instantly. I looked at the handwriting. It was hers, but it was too perfect. Each loop and cross of the T was deliberate, almost drawn. It wasn't the familiar, slightly rushed scrawl I knew from a decade of grocery lists and birthday cards. This wasn't a note from my wife. It was a prop, carefully crafted by an actress to keep her audience placated. Another item on David's checklist. Reassure the target. My resolve hardened into something sharp and brittle. The note was an insult. It underestimated me. It assumed I was the emotionally blunt, oblivious workaholic she was painting me out to be. She and David thought they were playing chess against a checkers player. They had no idea I could see the entire board. That evening, while I was helping Lily with her homework, she said something that made the air in the room turn to ice. Mommy was on her computer last night. She was looking at a map of a new house, near Grandma's. She told me not to tell you because it's a surprise. A surprise. A new house. The final piece of her escape plan, casually revealed by our own daughter. I needed to get onto her laptop. I waited until she was running Lily's bath, the sound of splashing water echoing down the hall. In her study, the laptop was open on her desk. The password screen glowed. I typed in the code I knew she used for everything. Lily's birthday, followed by our anniversary month and day. Lily 08-14-21. It still worked. A pathetic, sentimental artifact from a life she was actively dismantling. The desktop was clean, organized, too organized. But there was one folder that stood out, titled simply, Projects. My hand hovered over the trackpad, my heart a dull thud in my chest. This was it, the point of no return. The hum of the hard drive with the only sound in the room. I clicked. The folder was password protected, of course, a second layer of security. I thought about the names they used for me, the language of her supposed oppression. I typed, Warden Escape 21. Access granted. The sheer childish arrogance of it almost made me laugh. It was an unlocked door disguised as a vault. Inside was the entire war room. Scanned copies of her passport, Lily's birth certificate, our marriage certificate. There were financial spreadsheets detailing assets she planned to claim. And there was a subfolder named Legal. Inside was a 60-page document, a draft of a petition for dissolution of marriage, and a temporary restraining order, prepared by J. Peters and Associates. The restraining order petition was a masterpiece of fiction. It painted me as a manipulative, emotionally abusive monster who monitored her every move and controlled all the finances. It cited my long work hours as a form of neglect and my requests for household accountability as financial abuse. She was using my provision, my hard work, as the very weapon to destroy me. I needed to see her lie to my face. I needed one final data point. I closed the laptop, my mind unnaturally calm. It was time for the gaslighting beat. I would give her one piece of the puzzle and watch her try to build a different picture with it. The secret bank account. It was the perfect, contained piece of evidence. I found her in the kitchen, wiping down the counters with a bleach-scented cloth. I kept my voice level, almost gentle. Amelia, I was reviewing our finances for taxes and a statement came up for a bank account I didn't recognize. It's in your name. Can you tell me what that's about? I leaned against the doorframe, a casual observer. She shattered. It was a stunning performance. The dishcloth dropped into the sink and her hands flew to her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks instantly. She accused me of spying, of violating her privacy. Then came the twist. Of course I have a secret account, Mark, for protection. You control everything, every card, every expense. What happens if you decide one day that I'm not worth it anymore? If you kick me and Lily out, it's for us. It's my emergency fund, because you terrify me. The psychological reversal was breathtaking. In her narrative, my discovery of her secret wasn't a sign of her betrayal, but a confirmation of my control. She wasn't the conspirator. She was the terrified victim, and I was the paranoid abuser who had just proven her point. For a split second, the sheer force of her conviction made me question my own sanity. But sanity is a matter of perspective, and my perspective was a 60-page legal document that outlined her entire strategy. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded slowly. Okay, Amelia, I understand. Then I turned and walked back to my office, the sound of her sobbing following me down the hall. The gas light had been turned on, but the room was already illuminated by the cold, hard glare of my laptop screen. Inside my sanctuary, I sat down. The psychological defeat she had intended was a misfire. It did the opposite. It erased any last, lingering trace of sentimentality. She wasn't just leaving me. She was planning to annihilate me professionally and personally. She wasn't a cage bird. She was a saboteur, and my house was filled with her bombs. My plan was no longer about discovery. It was about containment and control. I opened a new document on my own computer. I began to type. It was a simple affidavit, my own narrative, supported by my own evidence. Timestamps from the GPS tracker, copies of the iMessage conversations from the cloud, a full transcript of her escape plan with David, a screenshot of the restraining order she had drafted. My next call was to my own lawyer, not a divorce attorney, but the senior litigation partner at my firm, a man who specialized in high-conflict corporate breakups. I explained the situation in cold, detached terms, as if we were discussing a hostile takeover. He was silent for a moment, then spoke. "We need to file first, Mark, and we need to serve her publicly. Take away her narrative before she can deploy it." The white noise machine from our bedroom was humming, its constant artificial shush seeping under my door. That sound, which I had once found soothing, now felt sinister. It was the sound of secrets, the static she used to obscure the truth. It was the soundtrack to the end of my life as I knew it, or the beginning of the next one. On my desk sat one of the cream-colored anniversary party invitations. The date was now less than a week away. Her grand finale, her last act of public deception before disappearing. She thought she was the director of this little play. She had no idea I was rewriting the final act. The venue was perfect. The guests were all invited. All I had to do was make one small change to the program. The week passed in a haze of feigned normalcy. We discussed catering. We finalized the guest list. She was radiant, energized by the proximity of her freedom. I was a ghost in our home, observing the final preparations for my own public execution with a detached, clinical interest. Each smile she gave me was a lie. Each touch was a betrayal. The day of the party arrived. It was a perfect suburban evening, warm and still. The caterers had set up white tents in the backyard, and string lights glowed in the twilight. Guests were arriving, their laughter echoing across the manicured lawn. Amelia was a vision in a white dress, gliding through the crowd. A perfect hostess, the perfect wife, my wife. Her sister Claire found me by the bar. "You look tired, Mark. Amelia seems so happy tonight, though." I smiled, a tight, humorless expression. "Yes, she does. She's been looking forward to this." Claire patted my arm, a gesture of solidarity that felt like a slap in the face. "It'll all be okay," she said, her voice dripping with condescending sympathy. She was a pawn, and she didn't even know it. I saw Amelia check her phone, a quick, furtive glance before slipping it back into her small clutch. A text from David, no doubt. A final encouragement, the last-minute instructions for her departure tomorrow morning. The thought didn't even sting anymore. It was just a final data point in a long, exhaustive list. The speeches began. Her father stood up and gave a rambling, sentimental toast to our decade of marriage. To Mark, for giving my daughter this beautiful life. And to Amelia, the heart of this family. I stood next to her, my arm around her waist, and smiled for the cameras. The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. After the toast, I stepped to the microphone. "Just a few words," I said, my voice calm and steady. The crowd quieted. I looked directly at Amelia. Her smile was brilliant, expectant. She thought I was about to give a gushing speech, a final, public testament to the lie she had so carefully constructed. The warden, praising his perfect prison. 10 years ago, I made a promise to build a safe and stable home. And for a long time, I thought that was enough. Amelia has taught me that a home is more than just walls and a roof. It requires honesty. It requires trust. She squeezed my hand. The audience sighed, a soft collective sound of approval. "So, in the spirit of that honesty," I said, turning my gaze to the crowd, "I have a small announcement, a legal matter." Her smile froze, her grip on my hand tightened, her nails digging into my skin. The air grew still. The party chatter died. A man in a simple, dark suit I didn't recognize stepped forward from the edge of the patio. "Amelia, my love," I said, my voice dropping to an intimate whisper that the microphone carried to every corner of the yard. "This is Mr. Corbin. He's a process server. And he has something for you." The man held out a thick manila envelope. Her name was printed on the front in stark black letters. Amelia Catherine Davies. Her face was a canvas of shock and dawning horror. Her eyes darted from the envelope to my face, searching for an explanation, a joke, anything. But my expression was calm, neutral. She had been served, publicly, in front of her family, our friends, my business partners. Her narrative was dead on arrival. Inside that envelope was my petition for dissolution of marriage, citing irreconcilable differences, and attached as exhibits were the GPS logs, the full transcript of her iMessages with David, the financials for her secret account, and a copy of the restraining order she had drafted against me. My 60-page affidavit. Her entire escape plan laid bare. There was no shouting, no accusations, just a surgical silent strike. I hadn't exposed her as a cheating wife. That would have been too simple, too messy. I had exposed her as a calculating fraud who had been planning to perjure herself in court. I had taken her weapon, the legal system, and turned it against her with cold, irrefutable precision. Her father started to move toward us, his face a confused mask of anger. I held up a hand, a quiet, simple gesture. "This is a private matter," I said into the microphone. "Please enjoy the party. The caterers have just put out the dessert." The sheer, banal normalcy of the statement, in the face of the unfolding drama, was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. Amelia's face crumpled. The perfect mask shattered, revealing the terrified, cornered woman underneath. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at me, her eyes wide with the horrifying realization that the game was over. She hadn't just lost. She had been outmaneuvered from the very beginning. The white noise machine in our bedroom hummed on, a useless guardian of secrets already exposed. The lavender scent of her perfume hung in the air, a ghost of a life that had never really existed. The guests stood frozen, a tableau of suburban shock. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a demolition. My second wife, and my second more spectacular failure. Or perhaps my first true success. My first wife, Sarah, left me because I was emotionally absent. Amelia was leaving because she'd mistaken my absence for weakness. A fatal miscalculation on her part. I had learned from my mistakes. I leaned in and whispered in her ear, my voice for her alone. "Your new house, near your mother's. I bought it this morning, in a trust, for Lily. You will not be on the deed." Her breath hitched. It was the final, devastating blow. I hadn't just blocked her escape. I had seized control of her destination. I stepped away from her then, leaving her standing alone with the envelope in her hand, a pariah at her own party. I walked through the stunned crowd, past the dessert table, and into the house. The cream-colored invitations were still, in a small pile, on the hall table, relics of a future that would never happen. I went into my office and shut the door, the sound of confused murmuring from the backyard fading away. On my desk was the silver phone charger I'd bought her for our 9th anniversary, the one from the kitchen counter. Its cord was frayed, the wire showing through the split plastic sheath, a symbol of our broken connection. I picked it up, coiled the cord tightly in my hand, and dropped it into the metal wastebasket next to my desk. Then I struck a single match and let it fall. The plastic caught fire with a small, quiet whoosh.